صل على محمد وعجل فرجه. Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahil awwali fala shay'a qablah wal akhiri fala shay'a ba'dah. Alhamdulillahil ladhi khalaqal ashya'a minal adam wa tafarrada bil awwaliyati wal qidam. Subhanallahil ladhi minhu khilqatul ashya wa ya'lamu ma'asil ibad. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastarshiduhu wa nastahdihi wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli ala أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وأشهد أن عليا أمير المؤمنين والأئمة من ولده هداة المهديين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ذلك ومن يعظم شعائر الله فإنها من تقوى القلوب صدق الله العلي العظيم. I begin by enjoining and commanding myself and you all to acquire taqwa. Taqwa is a quality of the heart. It's a state of the heart in which a person, a mu'min, is always attentive of his duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certainly taqwa as a quality is one of the most prominent qualities discussed in the Holy Quran. And although taqwa is quality of the heart, it's the state of the heart, it's that constant awareness that there is a Lord, there is a Creator who's constantly watching us. This taqwa of the heart shows itself in many different ways in our actions and in our individual and social life. Therefore, I explained and mentioned last time that taqwa has two types. There is a personal taqwa that shows itself in my personal life. And of course, there is a social taqwa which shows itself when I go out and interact with others in the society. So today I want to speak about one of those manifestations of taqwa which is mentioned in this verse of the Holy Quran that I recited in the beginning, Surah Al-Hajj, verse number 22. The verse says, ذَلِكَ. And that is the reality. That's the translation. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever respects and honors Allah's symbols, okay, and I'm going to explain what it means, but the verse of the Quran is saying that if anyone upholds and respects symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sha'air Allah, then it is a sign of taqwa in the heart of that person. So we have this very important idea in the Holy Quran by the name of sha'air, which is plural of the word sha'ira, which means symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now when you look at the Holy Quran, there are two different words the Holy Quran uses. Sometimes Quran uses the word ayah or ayat, but in other places Quran uses the word sha'air, and there's a difference between the two. If you look at the meaning of the word ayah and ayat, it means signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in a very general sense, everything, every creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it's a reflection and manifestation of Allah's attributes. All the creation, all of us are a sign from signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are ayah from the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But symbols are different. Symbols and sha'air are those special signs, those special things that actually remind us of obedience and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a significant way. So not every sign is a symbol of religion and symbol of deen. Okay. So if you look at the Holy Quran, it gives one example of this sha'air. It says, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'air Allah. That the Safa and Marwa, those who have gone to Hajj, they know you have to do sa'i. Safa and Marwa is one of the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason is because it's a place very closely tied to an act of obedience in the history. So there was someone in history. You all know the story of Prophet Ibrahim and Bibi Hajar and how she was seeking water for Hazrat Ismail. Because of her actions and her obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this Safa and Marwa became so prominent that when we remember Safa and Marwa today, it reminds us of submission, obedience, and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are told that behind every place which is a symbol of deen, so we have Kaaba, we have Safa and Marwa, we have so many other places which are symbols that remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Behind each of these places, there is an individual, a distinguished, close servant of Allah, a Nabi, a Wali, a close servant of Allah that did something very significant that signifies an act of worship and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore we are told that when we face and when we come across these symbols and sha'airullah, we have to do ta'zim, we have to show respect, we have to give them that deserving position that they need to have in the society and in the minds of the people. And it is for this reason that we commemorate and we remember Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha. It's this reason that we remember her in Ayyam Fatimiyya, because no one other than the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, including Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha, represented obedience of Allah, submission to Allah, servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the greatest sha'airullah that we have in front of us, and it's our duty in whatever way we can, by attending majalis, by remembering them, we show our respect and we uphold their honor in our community. And indeed, there was no one like Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha. When it came to submitting and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to read a hadith from the Holy Prophet in which he's describing the fada'il of Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad. So in this hadith he says, Amma ibnati Fatima. And as for my daughter Fatima, mata qamat fi mihrabiha bayna yaday rabbiha jalla jalaluh. The Holy Prophet is describing how Bibi Fatima would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's telling the companions that look and remember my daughter Fatima, how she would stand in her mihrab at night praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ظَهَرَ نُورُهَا لِمَلَائِكَةِ السَّمَاءِ. The light and the nur of her worship would become apparent to the angels in the sky. كَمَا يَظْهَرُ نُورُ الْكَوَاكِبِ لِأَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ. In the same manner, when we look at the sky at night, we look at the stars. In the same manner, angels are looking from the heavens and they can see the nur of ibadat of Bibi Fatima. وَيَقُولُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلِّ مَلَائِكَتِهِ. The Holy Prophet is quoting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that at that moment when this nur rises to the angels, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns to the angels and says, Unduru ila amati Fatima. Look at my servant Fatima. Sayyidati Ima'i. She is the leader of all women. Ka'imatan bayna yaday'a tarta'idu fara'ishuha min khifati. Look how she stood up in prayers in front of me. Her body is shaking out of my fear. وَقَدْ أَقْبَلَتْ بِقَلْبِهَا عَلَى إِبَادَتِي. And her heart is fully and completely turned towards me in her worship. Because Bibi Fatima has such a high station, she reminds us of servitude to Allah, obedience to Allah, taqwa. She becomes one of the sha'airullah, and one of the ways to do our duty to them is to do ta'azim and show our respects to them. And Mu'mineen, brothers and sisters, this gatherings that we have in remembrance of the Ahlul Bayt, they come with a lot of benefits for us, of course, if we pay attention and do them with the right etiquettes and adab. So we are told that there are 3 benefits that we'll receive, inshallah, if we remember, because these are the ayams, there'll be majalis, there'll be remembrance. If we do it in the right way, inshallah, we can get these 3 benefits. The first benefit of Ayam Fatimiyya and remembering Bibi Fatima is that it is something that reinforces our Shia identity. The history of Bibi Fatima, and mention of which will be made during days and nights, it's a very important part of the history that shapes our identity, because she stood up for the truth that was being trampled upon at that time. The right of Amirul Mu'mineen to lead the Ummah and guide Ummah towards felicity. She is the first Shahida of Wilaya. She stood, she struggled, she gave her everything so that the Wilaya of Amirul Mu'mineen could be upheld. And that was the separation between Haqq and Batil at that time. And Bibi Fatima made it clear which side the Haqq belongs and which side the Batil belongs. And if we pay attention to her story, her history, what happened to her in those 75, 95 days after the demise of the Holy Prophet, if anyone reads that history, the direction, the guidance, which way we are supposed to go becomes clear for them. And this was something that the Holy Prophet had already told the Ummah, that be very careful of your duty to Ahlul Bayt after me. So again, another hadith from Holy Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he says, Man sarrahu an yahya hayati wa yamutu mamati wa yaskunu jannati. Whoever wants to live like me, die like me, and take a place in Jannah, then falyuwali aliyan min ba'di. You have to make sure that you hold onto the wilaya of Amirul Mu'mineen after me. وَلْيَقْتَدِي بِالْأَئِمَّةِ مِنْ بَعْدِي. That you follow the A'imma, the Imams after me. فَإِنَّهُمْ إِتْرَتِي خُلِقُ مِنْ تِينَتِي. They are my progeny. They are created from my tinat. رُزِقُوا فَحْمًا وَإِلْمًا. They have the divine knowledge that you need for your guidance. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ بِفَضْلِهِمْ مِنْ أُمَّتِي. Woe unto those people from my ummah who deny their distinction. Al-Qati'ina fihim silati. There'll be people who will come after me who will break this relationship that I have with the Ahlul Bayt. They'll do Qat'ur Rahim with me. They would break this relationship between me and the Ahlul Bayt. And then he says, La analuhumullah shafa'ati. And the result of going away from Ahlul Bayt would be that these people would not receive the shafa'ah of the Holy Prophet on the Day of Judgment. So Ayam Fatimiyya are a reminder that this is our identity. Historically, this is where we stand, that we are the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, not because we love them, we are born into this religion, but because this is what the Holy Prophet had commanded the Ummah to do in order to be guided, in order to reach felicity. So Ayam Fatimiyya is important because it shapes our identity. That's the first benefit. The second benefit, inshallah, we all can derive from these days and nights is that it's an opportunity for all of us to strengthen our love for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and especially Bibi Fatima to Zahra salamullah alayha. And you see how much the Holy Prophet recommended to the Ummah regarding Bibi Fatima. Okay. So you look at the ahadith that in his lifetime, the Holy Prophet is showing others the station of Bibi Fatima. So I'm going to read a few ahadith. And all of these are from the Holy Prophet. Man ahabba Fatimata ibnati fahuwa fil jannati ma'i. Whoever has love of my daughter Fatima in his or her heart, he will be in paradise at my station, ma'i. Okay, that's a very high station in paradise. Because paradise has a lot of stations. And of course, the highest of the stations is the station of the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet is saying that if you want to reach my station in paradise, make sure you have love of my daughter in your heart. Inna Fatimata bad'atun minni. وَهِيَ نُورُ عَيْنِي وَثَمَرَةُ فُعَادِي. That indeed Fatima is a part of me. She's apple of my eye, and she's an enlightenment of my heart. Okay? So see how intimately and how with so much detail the Holy Prophet is inviting the Ummah to have love of her daughter, of his daughter in their hearts. And interestingly, this is one of the most famous ahadith that we have, that Fatimata bad'atum minni. It's also reported in the books of Ahlus Sunnah. So this same wording also appears in Sahih Bukhari, for example. So the reference I checked up, it was volume 5, page 26. Of course, the prints are different. So the reference I looked up, this hadith appears in the section called Manaqib Fatima, the distinctions and the fada'il of Bibi Fatima. It says, Fatimatu bad'atum minni. That Bibi Fatima is part of me. Man aghdhabaha aghdhabani. Whoever angers and upsets Bibi Fatima has indeed upset me. So inshallah, these are gatherings, these are opportunities where we have to try somehow, inshallah, through different means, through the majalis, through masaib, through the nawhas, that we somehow inculcate this love of Bibi Fatima in our hearts. And I say this especially to the respected parents of the community. We have to make arrangements. We have to make sure that as our children grow, we inculcate this love in their hearts. And believe me, it's becoming slightly difficult as compared to the past to do this now. The world has changed. Our language has changed. The way we express and do different things has changed. It might become increasingly difficult to hold on to the love of Ahlul Bayt. We need to find ways, and it's a responsibility of parents and community together, inshallah, to inculcate this love. But the third benefit, and the most important benefit, inshallah, we can derive from these gatherings, because these are Ayyam Fatimiyya, we'll be having majalis. So inshallah, we enter with a bit more understanding and ma'rifah so that we can make the most out of it. The third and the most important benefit we get through these gatherings is that when we express our love and respect for Ahlul Bayt, for Bibi Fatima, it opens the door for us to benefit from them, to take them as role models and to obey them. Because that's the ultimate purpose of having connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we can take them as a role models. We take Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha as a role model. And it's there in the hadith of the Prophet that he said that inna fi ibnati Fatima uswatun hasana, that in my daughter Fatima there is a great and amazing role model for all of you. And that is the nature of love, that if someone truly loves someone, the next step in that relationship of love is that you're going to obey that person. So we have a very beautiful quotation in hadith from our sixth Imam, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. So he's quoting a piece of poetry in Arabic explaining this point. It's really beautiful. He says, "Ta'sil ilah wa anta tudhir hubbahu." You disobey your Lord, but at the same time you express your love for him. هَذَا مُحَالٌ فِي الْفِعَالِ بَدِيءُ. This is impossible, and this is a very strange way to live. That on one side, a person expresses his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but at the same time he disobeys him. So Imam is saying, I don't understand this. This doesn't go too well. If you love someone, how can you disobey? It's impossible. Then Imam says, لَوْ كَانَ حُبُّكَ صَادِقًا لَأَتَعْتَهُ. If your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was true, you would have obeyed him. إِنَّ الْمُحِبَّ لِمَنْ يُحِبُّ مُطِيعُ. Indeed, a person who loves someone, he obeys that beloved. And believers, mu'mineen, this is the aim, that inshallah, through increasing in love for the Ahlul Bayt, for Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha, and the other A'immah, it should open the door, inshallah, to obey them, to learn from them. And inshallah, this part, the end of the khutbah, I'm going to quote a hadith, a very beautiful hadith, because these are Ayyam Fatimiyya. It's deserving and appropriate that I mention a hadith from Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha herself. So this is a hadith from Bibi Fatima. She says, "In kunta ta'amal bima amarnak." If you obey what you have commanded you with, she's speaking to all the Shia. She's speaking to all of us. That if you do and obey our commands, what we have commanded you to do, وَتَنْهَا أَمَّا زَجَرْنَاكَ, and stay away from what we have prohibited you from doing, فَأَنْتَ مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا, then you are one of our Shia. And then she says, إِلَّا فَلَا. She ends by saying that if someone doesn't obey us, they might love us, and which is very good. Love of Ahlul Bayt, love of Bibi Fatima is very good. But if someone wants to upgrade themselves from the position of being a muhib and a lover to being a Shia and a close companion of the Ahlul Bayt, then this is the way, as explained to us by Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha, that we have to obey them. And through this obedience, inshallah, we all can become the true Shia of the Ahlul Bayt. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, that He grants us the tawfiq in these days and nights, Ayyam Fatimiyya, to show our respect to Bibi Fatima, inshallah, to increase in love for her, to uphold her position in the believers, in the society, in the community. And inshallah, through all of this, we also get the tawfiq to obey them and increase in taqwa as we go along. Inna ahsana al-hadith wa ablaga al-maw'idha kitabullah al-aziz. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه ويؤذم النعمة علي فلا أجازي فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مونكة قد أراني فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. I begin my second khutbah by commanding and enjoining my own nafs and you all to acquire taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the last Jum'ah khutbah, our respected resident alim, Maulana Sayyid Adil, he started a discussion on the topic of peace and security. So in this khutbah, inshallah, I would like to take the same topic, but I would touch on another dimension of this very important topic of having peace and security in the society. And I think we all appreciate and understand how important this thing is for any society, having peace, stability, and security. In fact, so important is this thing for any society that no society can grow without having peace and security. There is no economic growth, there is no cultural growth, there is even no spiritual growth if the society is in turmoil, there's civil war, there's conflict, there are differences, there is a fitna in the society. So I think we all understand how critical this thing is for any society. And that's the reason that one of the first things that enemies of humanity, enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala target in any society is they take away peace and security from that society. They push the society towards chaos, towards violence, towards civil war, towards political instability. Why? Because when you shake a country in terms of its security, all other aspects and social systems of that society are shaken to the core. Nothing functions in the right way. So I think we all appreciate how important security and peace is. But the discussion I want to have today very briefly is, what are the foundations of this security and peace? How do we build secure, stable, and long-lasting peace? Because this is an important question. Because there are two types of peace that can be there in society. Sometimes you have peace in a society. There's nothing happening that alludes to insecurity or problems for peace, but this peace is outwardly and superficial. It's not true peace. Okay? it's maintained using some other methods. I want to give an historical example, which we all, inshallah, can reflect about. If you see Islamic history, that period after the demise of the Holy Prophet, and including those 4 and 5 years of the time of Khilafat of Amirul Mu'mineen, roughly 30 years of that period, if you see, one of the most peaceful pieces which had the least insecurity that time, comparatively, was Sham. Okay. So if you see, Sham, which was led by Muawiyah at that time, it was relatively secure. All the trouble, all the problems you saw were in this side. So you have, at the time of the third Khalifa, you have problems in Medina and around. There's an unrest that's going on. And all of you know what happened to the situation in Kufa during those days. It was very unstable, a lot of insecurity, lots of problems. And at the same time, Damascus and Sham was relatively peaceful. So how do we understand this? The way to understand this is that sometimes through suppression, through dictatorship, through propaganda, through media blackout, you can ensure superficial security. It's possible. But that's not the security we are after. When you look at Islam and Islamic teachings about security and peace, Islam wants true peace where not only bodies are at peace and they don't rebel and do anything, at the same time, even the hearts of the people should be at peace. You can't have a society where hearts of the people are not in peace, they're agitated, they're unhappy, but peace is imposed upon them through other means. That's not the peace that we are looking for. We are looking for a peace that is well-grounded, peace that has strong foundations. So this is an important question that needs to be addressed, that what are the foundations of true Islamic sustainable peace that would take us a very long way? Again, this is a very long discussion. I just want to speak about one of those very important foundations of peace and security, and that is justice. Okay. So one of the ways to make sure that there is lasting and stable peace is that you have to give justice to the people. Without justice, there is no long-term peace. And if you look historically, this was one of the things that Bibi Fatima, Salamullah alayha, this was what she was worried about that will happen if Amirul Mu'mineen is denied his rightful right of being the Khalifa. Because he's the divine leader who's ma'asum, who's infallible. And he will be able to establish justice in the society, and through that justice, there'll be peace. Everyone will be happy, a true peace where people respect each other's rights, don't trample upon each other's rights. But when she saw that this thing was taken away from Amirul Mu'mineen, in her last khutbah she gave, which was given to the women of Ansar. So a few days before Bibi Fatima passed away, she gave a khutbah to a group of ladies of Ansar who came to her house to do iyadat. Because she was ill, they came to meet her, and it's a magnificent khutbah like the khutbah Fadakiyah. In that now she's telling them that because you have not allowed Amirul Mu'mineen to rule, and because of this, there'll be no justice, and because of that, the Muslim Ummah is going to lose peace and security. Look what she says in this khutbah. ثُمَّ تِيبُوا أَن دُنْيَاكُمْ أَنفُسَ وَاتْمَئِنُّوا لِلْفِتْنَةِ جَاشًا. She's foreseeing the future. She's telling them their own future. She's telling them that you'll enjoy your dunya for only a short while. Be certain that there will be a fitna in the Muslim Ummah. And then she says something. She says, وَأَبْشِرُوا بِسَيْفٍ صَارِمٍ. Be ready for a sharp sword. وَسَطْوَةِ مُؤْتَدٍ غَاشِمٍ. Be ready for aggressors to assault you and to attack you. وَبِحَرَجٍ شَامِلٍ. Be ready for widespread turmoil. Okay. She's foreseeing the future of the Muslim Ummah. وَاسْتِبْدَادِ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. The oppressors will dominate you. يَدَعُوا فَيْأَكُمْ زَهِيدًا وَجَمْأَكُمْ حَسِيدًا. They'll do two things with you. They'll take away your wealth and property, and they will kill you. They'll slaughter you. Okay. This was what she was worried about. She was concerned that if Amirul Mu'mineen doesn't get to lead the ummah in a just way, and justice is not given to people, then the very foundations of peace and security will be shaken. And that is the reality of our world today as well, that peace needs a solid foundation of justice. And the classical example in our modern history of this playing out is the example of the occupation of Palestine. Yes, everybody wants peace in Palestine. We all are yearning that there is sustainable peace in Palestine. But we have to ask this question, that if they are not given true justice, how can we ensure peace? They have never received justice. Have not people made attempt to have peace accords? I'll read a whole list of peace treaties that were signed to resolve the conflict. 1949, Armistice Agreement. 1973, Geneva Accords. 1979, Camp David. 1993, Oslo Accords. Last 10 years, Abraham Accords. There's so much attempt to have peace for the Palestinians, and this is what we all want, but the key problem, which is the issue of justice, is being ignored. How can you have sustainable peace if there is no justice given to the Palestinians? The problem will erupt again. You can impose peace through machines and tanks and bombs, but how long that peace is going to be sustainable? And this is a reality that the Palestinian resistance figured out 50 years ago. For us, it might be new, the idea of resistance and countering oppression for sustainable peace. But in 1970s, the Palestinian resistance movements had figured out that the only pathway to peace for Palestine and end of occupation is that we'll have to resist. And since then, they have taken this path of resistance so that they can achieve, inshallah, sustainable peace. So I'll quote something very interesting. So there is in those days, in 1970s, Palestinian resistance movement was communist in flavor. They were driven by communist ideology and they're fighting. So one of those commanders of the Palestinian communist factions, in 1970, in a television interview in Beirut, the reporter asked, his name is Ghassan Kanafani. So this man, he's asked that, why don't you do peace with Israel? He's asked, why don't you do peace? Look at the answer. It's a television interview. He gives answer saying that, do you want the neck to make peace with the sword? Are you asking that the neck should make peace with the sword? It's not going to work, because neck can never make peace with the sword. Why? Because the underlying justice is missing. And inshallah, we have a lot of hope that if this path of resistance continues, we can reach a state where sustainable peace can be achieved. And this is the promise of Allah in the Holy Quran, that He says, وَعْدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Allah has promised believers, amongst other things, وَلَيُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. That inshallah, if they do the right thing, whatever is the right thing, sometimes you do peace talks, sometimes you have to resist. If you do your duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the right way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised the believers that a day will come when He'll change this khawf and insecurity and injustice, inshallah, into a lasting and true and sustainable peace, inshallah. Before we end and we head for Salah, there's an announcement I would like to make, and that is, require your attention, is that Mayyat Committee has embarked on a journey to prepare a documentary to show all different stages that happen when a Mayyat leaves this world, and all these different things are done. So there's a request from them that in order to get suitable footage, there are 2 places where the Mu'mineen are requested to attend and participate. It's a very noble effort, educational, we'll learn a lot. And also it's a way to show our appreciation to all those people who work hard in that section. Right after Salatul Jum'Ah, there will be a Salatul Mayyat for taking the footage. Inshallah, everyone is requested to join that. And on Sunday, day after tomorrow, 23rd November, I'm mentioning the date as well, at 4:30 p.m. in Kabristan, there also will be, for taking the footage, a ceremony of dafn, because they want to take. So Mu'mineen are requested that please do join these gatherings. It will allow us to increase the quality of this documentary, insha'Allah. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم